You understand what I'm saying? So when we're working towards things and we're trying to make things better, it's not for every single body. Why is that? Because every single body doesn't want change from the top to the bottom. There are people at the bottom that don't want change. There's people at the top that don't want change and everything in between. So we must understand this one thing. Do you understand that? That it takes time, number one, to change the ship around. But number two, it takes for us being honest. It takes for us understanding what we need to do as not just individuals, but as a collective too, right?
Welcome here to the Creative Leadership Network, known as TCLN Network. So, hi guys, how are you doing? It is 2025. How many years are we going to continue to go through this? Okay, guys, but like I said, if you've been watching my videos, you know things have changed over the years. Now, the Urban League has declared a state of an emergency for Black America. As you know, concerning voting rights laws, affirmative action, DEI programs, agencies like the DOJ, Civil Rights Divisions. Also, let's talk about those student loans. What's going on with that? Because you know they are coming and you know they're coming real soon, right? And there's going to be a lot of garnishment and wages going on. Also, I want to hit a little bit about these federal jobs. So, as you know, there's been 13, I think 1,350 jobs that have been cut. What I want to talk about concerning those cuts, were some of those programs adding value or were they diminishing more of the populations? We're going to talk about that, okay? Now, I want you guys to hang on. Thank you for joining in. Stay right here for this quick announcement, and I will be right back.
I brought this broadcast together so that we can rise above social, systemic, and spiritual issues that we face every day in our nation. The goal is to help us to do better, get better, and become better. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell, make sure that your phone notifications are turned on so that you will not forget to be inspired and to stay informed. So, with that being said, let's jump right in.
Welcome back to the Creative Leadership Network, known as TCLN. I want to thank you guys for tuning in today. The Urban League is suing the federal government to block executive orders that eliminate civil rights protections. They're going to also be doing public campaigns to mobilize communities to reclaim the vote. Also, they are warning the nation and they are calling upon all Americans, especially Black communities, to prepare for an urgent and strategic resistance. That's interesting, isn't it? That is interesting. Now, suing the federal government. Now, what I want to talk about, because here at TCLN, I want to make sure that we educate to elevate and that we go from situations to solutions. So I thought to myself, this is interesting when I started looking at it, right? But I thought even further, I said, okay, how many, Black people are actually being assisted? What is the ratio between assistance and the Urban League actually helping the Black community? What do they help with? Is the Black community really getting the help that they deserve? And do they have a right to call on the Black community for such a time as this? Again, the reason why I look into these types of things because we've had so many programs in the earth, right? But for some reason, out of all the programs we've had in the earth, there's still like this disparity, right? There's still like this thing that says, why aren't we moving forward like we should? Now, with that being said, I want you to understand that this has nothing to do with hitting the Urban League or any organization for that fact. What it is that it's holding all of us accountable, not just the federal government, not just the Urban League, not just all of these organizations, but all of us, even the Black community. Because what does it look like if we call on the Black community? You understand what I'm saying? But there hasn't been as much contribution as we think that there is, right? Words are words, but numbers are numbers and facts are facts, okay? So let's go over that a little bit. And I don't have all the details because, when you do research, they don't give you any, as much as all the things you would like, and you're limited to the information that you receive, okay? And then I'm going to also hit on what we can all do together, right? And how we can all support together. Please do not think this is just a Trump administration thing. You know what I really truly, now this is my commentary. I do facts, I bring the news. Of course, this has been trending in the news. This is where I got it from. But I also bring commentary. I like for black communities and people to understand, black and brown communities, that people love to find a blame. They love to say, oh, it's this fault or it's that fault. But the truth is, I know, and blacks know, and browns know that even when DEI was in place, and even when all of these initiatives were in place, there was still a disparity. There were still some people getting the help and a whole lot of people not getting the help. So, with that being said, I like to say, please not, let's just look at this as a Trump administration situation. Let's look at it as a situation in whole. I think sometimes when things are moved and stopped and blocked as we think they are, we like to think that, oh, everything was just working out before this happened. But the truth is, was it? Was it? You understand what I'm saying? Uh, Guys, we have to look at the facts. We have to look at the world. We love to sell stories, we love to sell narratives, but the only thing that moves us forward is truth. And we know that, right? So, but anyway, let's get started on the Urban League, okay? According to the Urban League, the cuts that are going on in Washington, of course, with the government, this affects people trying to launch businesses, access to grants, and build community spaces or educate others. The DEI bans, funding cuts, and political hostility hits them first and the hardest. Now, this is their claim, right? And they're trying to navigate through these policies and the shifts that are going on currently in America. What I want black and brown communities to do is I want you to stop, and I want you to look at your businesses. I want you to look at your families, your homes, because we need to learn how to be truthful, right? I want you to look at your homes. I want you to look at the things that you're trying to achieve. I wanted you to look at, as a small business, how many organizations did you reach out to and receive the help that you needed? As far as if you were trying to get loans, as far as you was trying to get the educational information that you needed, as far as just anything, right? The right type of research, the right type of connections. Um, just pay attention to your life, right? Because when each individual pays attention to their life, what that does is that when we come together as a collective and we have discussions in the black and brown community, you understand what I'm saying? Then we're able to say, did I get resources when I reached out? Did I get the help when I reach out? Let me give you an example. We know that our society, no matter who we are, it's a picking and choosing society, right? We know that there are some people that people favor and there are some people that people don't. Can we not agree? That happens in corporate America. It happens everywhere you go. It even happens in churches, which it shouldn't, but it does. Let's be honest, right? So I remember one time, and the reason why I say this, because this is my experience, and other people have had experiences too. We've all been on the internet. We've all talked about it, right? So I remember some few years back, I was trying to start a little small business, right? Of course, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't even know how to make a business plan, right? But I came across information just Googling. You know how we do. We Google, try to reach out, try to see what's out there, right? And I came across the SBA. And then I also came across, you have the SD, I think it's CD or something like that, and the SBA. And then you have women's groups, you have organizations, you have all these things, right? And in each city, they have what's called the SBA, and they have different locations. They also have what's called a score, where you can hook up with score, and score and all these resources can help you, right? But anyway, so I was in my hometown, and I said, okay, let me reach out to them. They'll teach you how to make and you know how when you're first starting business, you're so like let me say the word correctly because it's true. You're ignorant, right? So you don't know everything and you don't know what you need to know. You just know that you have this idea and you're ambitious and you're ready, right? And you see all these resources online and you're like, ooh, let me reach out to this, and ooh, they can help. And they said they help with beginners, and they say they help you with a business plan, and they say they do this, and you're just excited, right? So you sign up for all these courses and you sign up for all these classes, and this is what you're expecting. So anyway, I go to the SBA, and the small development. It's really the small development thing, and they're supposed to help you, right? You know, sometimes you have to be careful because you're sharing your information, and you think people are there to help, and it's not what it's always opt out to be, right? And so you see all of the wording on there, you see all of the information, and that's basically what you expect. And I know I'm not the only one. I've heard so many stories on the internet, right? And so anyway, I go up there and I'm like, okay, this is what I'm trying to do. You know, you go in and you talk to one of the people, right? And then I was like, okay. And they was like, well, what do you need and what? And I was like, well, I need to learn how to make a business plan. I need to put a business plan together. You know, I need this, I need that. You know, I'm just thinking I need all the things I need. And so one of the guys who worked there, he jumps up and he said, well, we can't do that. He said, you are our competition. And I'm thinking to myself, like, what? And like, cause I wasn't expecting that, right? Because number one, I'm not their competition. You know, they're supposed to be there to help you. They work for these organizations, right? And I'm thinking to myself, wow, you know. And so, but anyway, he laughs it off like he's playing. But nonetheless, the type of service that I received reflect what he was thinking. So you know how people say, I don't even like you. And then they bust out and say, girl, I'm just playing. But then the relationship is everything them showing that they don't like you, right? And so I said all of that to say, not to knock the Urban League or any other resource. Do you understand that? This is not what this is about. What this is about is that I get us to move from situations to solutions. That's my goal. What I like to do here at TCLN is to, when these situations come up and people point and say, oh, it's the federal government, or people point and say, oh, it's this institution, or this, it's this organization. That may be true, that may be not true, but I like to look at it all. I like to look into it all. And the reason why I like to do that is because I know what it's like to reach out for help and you do not get the services and help that you thought you were going to get, because it's a politicking game, right? People want who they want, they don't want who they don't want. And they want to lift up the voices that they want to lift up, and they don't want to lift up the voices that they don't want to lift up. Now, is it said like that? No. When PR is on websites, when things are going on, it's made to look that like it's for everyone or the select groups that they're trying to help, right? And so again, I just want you guys to be thinking. You know, don't just jump and do race baiting. Don't just jump and do government baiting, because this is all about you, right? The Urban League is not there to be there for the government. They're there to be there for you. Do you understand that? And so while they were suing the federal government, I looked into them and said, have they been sued? You know, is there any important time that someone has reached out and said that they've been unfair? And of course, I came across some information. It was more on a personal level or some type of incentives that people thought wasn't being used right, or programs that wasn't being managed right, and something like that. You understand what I'm saying? And the reason why I do that, because you have to understand that we're not just going to holler at the government and scream at the government. Times are changing. We want to make sure that when you say you work for us or you're trying to help us, are we getting that help? And it's the people's voices that when they stop race baiting, when they stop shenanigans and stop doing all this stuff and come together and tell the truth, that's when we make change, guys. Not just for you, not just for a select, but for us all. I remember Black people. I'm going to give this example, and then I'm going to get off this with the Urban League. I just wanted to give you that little news, let you know what was going on. But before you start seeing things and hearing things, don't just jump on the bandwagon. Make sure you're doing your research. Make sure you're educating yourself. Ask yourself, have you ever been to the Urban League or any other resource, and did they help you like they were supposed to.
Never stop, I'll get it if I want it. Gotta make to myself a promise. I won't quit, keep going till I got it. I won't give up till I'm on top. Yo, no, I ain't the type to give up. If I do something, man, I do it till I get what I want.
You understand what I'm saying? And if they did, add to the pool and say yes. If they did not, do not feel ashamed. Do not be embarrassed. Add to the pool and say no and say why. Because that's the only way we begin to change things, not just the government. Everything is not the government's fault, but we begin to change it on all angles, right? Let me give this example. I remember Black people were saying once, white supremacy jails and this and that. And I'm the type of person that we need real change. We don't need to keep selling narratives we've been selling for I don't know how long. Like, we need real change. And when things have changed over the last 15, 10, and 20 years, and you have a lot of Black people in places of when it comes to the jails and when it comes to the systems and the mental health care, and the saga still continue, that means that something is wrong. That means it's not just white people as they would have you to believe when they're doing the same thing, right? And of course, people get upset with you when you challenge these ideas and you challenge things. But I told Black people, I said, if you live in Chicago, if you live in Dallas, if you live in Watts and Compton and all of your major cities, you need to, and I just started interviewing people. I just started talking to them, right? And I was asking them, when you got locked up, what race was the person that locked you up? Were they Latina? Were they Mexican? Were they Black? I said, when you go inside these jails, who are the people there that are mistreating you? Is it a white person? Is it a Black person? Is it a Latina? Is it another race? I said, we can't keep selling a narrative and making it look like, oh, it's just this person over here, or it's just that thing over there. And we're not quite, being honest, because when we don't be honest, then we don't get the real change that we need. Because if I keep selling, let's just say, for instance, let me give you an example. Let's just say, for instance, John is known as a thief. Everybody knows that John is a thief. Everybody does. John's been stealing for years. So something comes up stolen. Who is the first thing that people look at? Y'all know John did it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But John has been telling everybody, I don't steal anymore. I've been changing my life. I've been working on myself, right? Right? And so people know that John steals. So somebody want to come in and they want to take advantage of that. And they say, yeah, everybody knows that John is the thief, child. Everybody know this. So I'm going to get away with it. I'm just going to say that John stole. Do you understand that? And I'm going to get away with this thing because everybody is going to look at John. So it is with white supremacy. I'm sorry to tell you, but it is the truth. Not to say that people in white supremacy are trying to change all the time, but there are some white people that are not trying to be labeled as that. You understand what I'm saying? And there are still some white supremacists. We know that. But we also know that people have learned how to play the game. People have learned how to play checkers and chess. So when your own race wants to keep you out of stuff and keep you out of resources, out of jealousy and envy and hatred, they can just keep blaming it on white supremacy. When another race wants to do the same thing, when people want to abuse you and misuse you in the system, because remember, the system is the system. And I have to remind people all the time, there is no such thing as just white people working in the system. The medical field is the system. The police field is the system. The church is the system. Everything you think of is called our systems, the system of our societies, the system of our world, the education system, the government system, everything. And it is foolish to keep saying, oh, just them, just them, just them, when you have every single race that works in this system. And there are proof over and over again that there is constantly showing you understand what I'm saying, that there are different people and different races that don't do right in this system. You understand what I'm saying? But the easiest cop out is white supremacy, systemicnism, this and this and this and that. You understand what I'm saying? So the reason why I wanted to point that out, Urban League, nothing against you guys. Please do not believe that. But I want us to understand that if the government is cutting resources and the government is doing this and you feel like it is affecting black and brown communities, when there are times that, because remember, urban leagues are all over America and in different cities and different places, you must understand yourself that if you're not managing resources right and there's a picking and choosing system and things are not being done right, you are no different from the government. It's like pointing a finger, right? So you would be no different from the government. And not the whole urban league, just like not the whole government would be guilty, right? And so I point those things out just to say, and even black and brown communities, we got to stop saying, oh, the white system, oh, the this, oh, the white supremacy. We have to be more responsible as individuals. What are our resources? What's out there? What can help us? Now, you have to understand that there are different resources at different levels, right? If you are a beginner, sometimes there are certain resources you can't tap into until you have mastered the beginning level. But at that beginning level, whatever those resources are, there should not be a picking and choosing level as long as you meet the guidelines. You understand what I'm saying? And so that's what I mean by when we are all holding ourselves accountable, all of us. Also, as individuals, you understand what I'm saying? Making sure that we're not kicking one down. Oh, because I want this piece of pie, I'm going to kick you down. I'm going to make you look bad so that I can look good. You understand what I'm saying? Just like that happens at the top level, it happens at the bottom level too. And that's what I mean by all of us making sure that we are doing what we are supposed to be doing. You understand what I'm saying? So with that being said, the Urban League, I wish you well. I know that there are people that you out there that has helped, but make sure that you are making sure that you're handling things right when you do get funding. Make sure that you are being fair. You understand what I'm saying? Everybody is not going to believe what you believe. Everybody is not going to be who you are. But make sure that whatever your PR says, whatever it says that you're supposed to be doing, make sure you're doing that for each individual, because each individual deserves it. Unless they just a bad person or a criminal or somebody that just don't want to do right and is going to misabuse things. Other than that, make sure you're doing your part. And then government, also make sure you are doing your part. So with that being said, I wish you well. The Urban League, those who are in the government who are doing right, I wish you well. And citizens, Americans, let's make sure we're doing right by each other. I don't mean that everybody's going to be your friend. That would be a delusion. That would just be a delusion. Everybody's not going to be your friend. Everybody's not going to be for you. Everybody's not going to be with you. That's just a bold-faced fact, whether you want to admit it or not. People can play kumbaya all they want to. I do not play kumbaya. What I do is those of us who want to advance, those of us who want to see this country better, of us want to see ourselves better. What I try to do here is I try to make sure that no matter who we are, we look at everything from a balanced perspective. Do you understand that? A very, very balanced perspective, so that we won't just be pointing fingers at the government, but there's also other issues that other organizations need to be fixing themselves. And then we as individuals, we're not just pointing our fingers to the systemic or white supremacy, that we are also dealing with ourselves. Because if you go to an organization and black people are predominantly working there, or Latinos are predominantly working there, and they're hating on you, trying to keep you out of resources, that's not a government problem. The government gave the resource. The problem is them that's working there, that's doing stuff that they have no business doing because they're not abiding by the guideline. Okay? So guys, you have a wonderful one. Let's head over to student loans. Let's talk about these student loans. Let's see what's going up and what's going down with them. Okay? Next show over here. All right. You guys have a blessed one. I hope you got something out of this. Here at TCLN, I like to bring the news, but I also like to bring commentary. I bring the facts, and I bring commentary too, okay? And you guys have a blessed one. Next. Let's get on over there, okay?